as you want. And I'm here to present you the DNS for EU project, which is project founded by the European Commission in behalf of NISA, European National Security Cybersecurity Agency. And the goal of this project is to how to protect 100 million users by the protective DNS service. So let's dive in. So this is our agenda for my talk. Why protective DNS? Why it is a good technology? Something about the DNS for EU project itself. Then we will have a little bit of deep dive to the threat intelligence and how we actually do the protection for the end users. Then how we will or are distributing the solution, the timeline of the project, and of course a space for your questions, if any. So let's start. So why protective DNS? Today we have about 15 billion connected devices to the internet, and all of them leverage the DNS protocol. Yeah, DNS protocol is essential for the basic function of the internet, as you probably have heard on the previous talk. And also 90+% of attacks rely on DNS. Yeah, they are using DNS to misuse the protocol or to use it for a malicious communication. Yeah, so it seems like let's say a good common denominator which every internet user uses, and where we can place a protection. Yeah, so that is how the protective DNS was born some years ago, and why it is spreading pretty widely around the world. So now about the DNS for EU project. So what is the goal? The goal is pretty noble, but also pretty high level, and it is strengthening the digital security and independence of the European Union and protect government institutions and citizens as they are not very well protected, or if they are, there is a slower action on threats, especially the local one. We already do have some public protective DNS service running, but none of these are located within EU. The problem here is since they are not located within EU, we don't know what is happening with our data. Yeah, they may misuse them for the advertisement. They use them for various purposes, but these are actually our private data because we are using our public IP addresses, and we don't know what is happening to them. So EU wanted a project or a protective DNS service which is regulated by the EU law. So the data of the users are anonymized, and also the service is running by solely European companies. And that means not just the development of the service, which is on us, on the DNS for EU consortium, but also the infrastructure, yeah, which is running on. So this project does not leverage any well-known infrastructure services such as Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Provider, or Microsoft. This is the consortium. The Whalebone, the company I am from, is a leader of this consortium because we are doing the protective DNS service for 8 years by now. Yeah, we have distributed the solution to more than 30 big telco operators around the world, as well as hundreds of ISPs. But we are cooperating with a lot of consortium members, including the researchers from the technical universities, including the CERTs, which Staki is one of the example, including the lawyers to ensure that everything is okay from the law perspective, and the data are stored in an anonymized and expected manner. Yeah, so this is the consortium. It's a consortium of 13 companies working on this project, and we are working on it for a year and a half by now. So now let's dive into the two very basic pillars of any security service or protection service. Yeah, any protection service we have or any protection solution, whether it's firewall, end user protection or protective DNS, is basically raised with time. Yeah, we need to collect as much as accurate and threat intelligence data as possible, and then distribute this data, these threats, this information about threats, to as many users as possible. And this is where we think, or this is where we are sure that DNS4U is actually a very good solution. So these are two basic pillars. So let's start with the threat intelligence and how we do it. So this is the threat intelligence lifecycle. It consists of four sub-steps, let's say. The first one is early detection. We need to detect the new domain on the internet as soon as possible and evaluate if they are malicious or not. And then the second pillar or second step is intelligence sharing channels. We need to share together as the European security agencies and CERT and CSERTs as much threat intelligence data as possible to increase the coverage against the threats. Then, as we have a lot of traffic currently from more than 10 million users, actually, we can search for patterns in such traffic, such as DJ and DNS tunneling, and I will talk about it later on the later slides. But of course, as every security solutions, we can have some false positive, something what we blocked, but we shouldn't. So we need to mitigate them as well. So let's dive a little bit deep into these steps. So first is, I need to move this, if I may, is early detection of the domains. Not every domain which is registered on the internet is up and running and have some content. Yeah, so what the attackers usually do is to register like set of domains, and they activate them in the time of attack. Yeah, so it's our goal to try to detect them as soon as possible. So how to do it? We need to do some domain hunting, and what tools we can use for that. One pretty powerful tool is certificate transparency, because most of domains have SSL certificate, and most of domains leverages HTTPS. And if the SSL certificate is registered, or let's say bounded with the domain, that's a good indication that the domain is live and there is probably some content on it. Sometimes the certificate also includes requester details. So based on that, we can detect if the requester is, let's say, valid one or the malicious one. Another approach how to search for domains is to use the top level domain registries, like .eu, .org, or .pl, .hu in case of Hungary, and scan for newly registered domains. That is the most efficient tactic how to scan for new domains. The problem here is that not many TLDs, the top level domain registries, are publishing them, because it's kind of personal data in some cases, so it's never-ending discussion, what to publish and what to not publish. So for example, Poland publishes such data. Czech Republic does not so far, but we are in a like daily touch and discussing if it's a wise thing to do or not. Another very powerful tool is DNS traffic itself, aka passive DNS. As I mentioned, we have traffic from 10 million users. So we have a pretty good overview what is happening on the internet. So we have footprints of traffic, and we are able from this detect if some new domain actually appeared in the traffic or not, and we are able also to scan for it. The advantage here is that we have also like a history of domain resolutions in time with important metadata. So where the domain was first seen, when it was last seen. If it's really, let's say, short time period that the domain was alive, that's probably the malicious domain. Does it resolve constantly or changing rapidly? If it changes the server or the IP address and they are resolved to, that's suspicious, right? Because like usually normal domains like google.com or microsoft.com, they resolve to, let's say, one IP for a longer time period. Does it have other records like TXT or CNAMEs? Yeah, some additional information to the domain, let's say, or like other DNS records. Most of domains have them. Yeah, malicious domains, in a lot of cases, they do not. Or does it resolve to actually to non-existing domain? Yeah, client is asking for some domain, but what is returned is non-existent domain. That's suspicious, right? Such domain can be used, or maybe is widely used for DNS tunneling or DGA. So these all factors are taken into account, and all of these factors raised or are raising the risk score of the domain. So that was domain hunting. This is an example what we can get from the metadata, either from the certificate, the SSL certificate, or from WHOIS, yeah, from the metadata for the domain, or from the infrastructure information. And this is actual mapping of one phishing attack which we had in the Czech Republic. And it was a phishing attack sent by the SMS, yeah, or also via emails, but mostly SMS, for our Ministry of Social Affairs. And once our threat intelligence team mapped the, let's say, what domains are used for this attack, he mapped all of these domains based on the information about the domain, so who registered it, about the SSL certificate. Yeah, they are using the same or similar certificate with the same metadata, or they are hosted on the same IP address. And thanks to this metadata, we are able to reveal the whole map, yeah, the whole surface of the attack for the phishing campaign. And our goal, of course, to block them immediately. Yeah? So this was one example when we were very successful in blocking the whole phishing campaign for the whole country. So that was early detection. Another, let's say, sub-pillar of the threat intelligence is intelligence sharing. Currently, as part of DNS4EU project, we have 90 plus sources, which are very effective against the global threats. Yeah, some of them are publicly available, some of them are private and paid. We are also cooperating with takedown services, the services which are in touch with TLDs, with the domain registries, to shut down the domain because it's malicious and used for attacks, and also with botnet intelligence services. Yeah, so all of these gives us a pretty good overview of the malicious domain on the internet, and we are adding 150,000 of malicious domain to the DNS4EU backend daily. Yeah, so that's quite a number of domains we are blocking. So as I mentioned, this is quite effective against the global threats. The real challenge here, and also where the other global security vendor fails, is local threats, local phishing campaigns, and local attackers. And one of the big goals of the DNS4EU project is to cooperate with all certs and C-certs around Europe to put together as much threat intelligence data from the local environment. From example, we are from the Czech Republic, so we are pretty aware what is happening here within the country. We are able to detect a lot of phishing campaigns and a lot of attacks here. But it's quite challenging for us to detect it, for example, in Hungary or in Poland. Yeah, so we are cooperating and trying to engage as many of certs and C-certs together, and they are also trying to engage their local C-certs team within the banks, government, postal service, and so on, to put as many information about the threats together. And thanks to this, we are able to immediately distribute it to all resolvers, yeah, which we have deployed around Europe, whether it's a resolver running in telco operator or in the internet service provider or in the government. Yeah, so this is the very efficient response, almost zero time response to the ongoing attack or ongoing phishing campaign, for example. This is one of real life examples of the fruits it brings, and this is from Luxembourg. Yeah, as you can see on the screen, there is one of the phishing campaigns. They were like attacked or they were target for, and it was distributed via SMS and emails, and it was basically saying, you probably know that, at least in our country, it's pretty famous one, that you are about to have a package delivery, and you need to fill just some information like name, surname, address, and then it asks for credit cards. And this is how easily the personal information or even information about credit card are stolen and misused. Yeah, so thanks to the local threat intelligence sharing, this was immediately detected and blocked in Luxembourg. Then the third pillar is traffic analysis. I mentioned the abbreviation DGA. I think this is a good place to explain what DGA actually is. Yeah? It's a domain generated by algorithm and why it is used. Yeah? As I mentioned at the start, every security solution is race with time. Yeah, so you register one domain, and you need to use the domain before it's detected by the security engine and blocked. So what attackers, and by attackers I mean mainly malware softwares, do, is that they will register a lot of domains in advance and activate those domains in the time of the attack. Yeah? So it's pretty effective tactic from the attacker point of view, and our goal is to detect them as soon as possible. Yeah? So what we do in our backend, yeah, thanks to our passive DNS data. Well, so we can see that some clients trying to resolve this very weirdly looking domain. Yeah? It doesn't look like something user wants to access, probably, right? It's some random characters. So we got some attention to it and asked the backend, the database, so does the client send series of those randomly generated domains? And it seems it does. Yeah? So it seems it is very probable that the client is infected by some malware software which is activated. So we will mark those domains as used for DGAs and immediately start to block them on the resolver level. So the malware software cannot communicate outside because we block the communication, as the malware software cannot resolve the domains they are trying to get the data to. That was DGA. Another very efficient and nice technique from the attacker point of view is leveraging the DNS tunneling. The DNS tunneling is technique very effective how to get the data out of the network through the firewall. How it is possible? Because the DNS is communicating on port 53, and port 53 is used for DNS, so it's always open on the firewall. Yeah, if you close it, you will just shut down the internet for all users, so you cannot close it. So what the attacker does is that they hash the data they want to try to communicate out of the network to the subdomain, and use some legitimate domain to just query the name server on the other side. And thanks to this, the name server takes those data, which is, let's say, hashed in the subdomain, unhash it, and thanks to this, they are able to see, for example, passwords or any other data which can be leaked out of the network. Yeah, so this cannot be blocked on the firewall level, and you need to block on the, let's say, gateway level, which is quite hardware demanding, or on the DNS level, which is very efficient. So again, we detect. So does the client ask for such weird query, some random characters? Does the client send series of those? If they do, let's look at it. Yeah, let's look at it if it's actually tunneling domain. And this is obviously is, so we can block it. However, there is, let's say, one exception, that actually some softwares like antivirus softwares or even Spotify use this technique for the legitimate communication. Yeah, so we whitelisted such softwares or such domains and detecting only the malicious one. And again, once this tunneling domain is detected, we are able to block it and immediately distribute to all resolvers and say, hey, this is malicious domain used for DNS tunneling. Let's block it immediately. Yeah, so that was another technique where the traffic analysis is super useful. Last but not least, what we need to do is to do a false positive mitigations. So within the DNS for EU backend, we have implemented a machine learning model. So based on the DNS traffic, we are detecting the false positive even before reported by the customers. Yeah. So if there is high demand for some domain from various places or devices, we are lowering the risk score of the domain. So it's obviously seems like a legitimate communication and not something malicious. Also, we are cooperating with the Czech University of Technology or the Stratosphere Lab, to be exact, for a new model for detection, because machine learning can be, of course, improved all the time. So that's also part of this project. Beside the machine learning model, we also do have a prominent lists. Yeah, for example, you would never block Google.com or Microsoft. Yeah, so there are hundreds of domain which are never blocked. And of course, as a last resort, we have reports by the customers. Currently, we are receiving about, like, let's say, 2 false positive reports in a day. So if we compare it with 10 millions of customers, which is like 300 million DNS queries daily or something like that, that's actually a pretty good number. Just 2 false positive, compared to 300 million DNS queries. I think it's pretty positive. So that was about the threat intelligence. Now let me have a drink for a while. Now let's dive into the distribution. Yeah, so we collected as much as threat intelligence data, but now how to protect the actual users, right? So a lot of people think that the DNS for EU project is about the public resolvers which are publicly available and anyone can use them. We will have like more let's say options of these resolvers, and that is pure resolution without any protection, protected resolution, the main value, and we are also considering some let's say added value resolutions, like for example adult filtering or maybe ad filtering. There will be in 2025, which is next year, 14 public resolvers around Europe. So anyone can use them. But let's face it, and let's be honest, this is not the main way how we can protect 100 million people. Why? Because nobody will reconfigure their DNS resolver. Yeah, like our families, my sister certainly does not know what is DNS and how to reconfigure DNS resolver, and they will not do it. Yeah, this is more to the expert IT community than for a general public. So how to distribute it to these millions of users? So what we are doing now, and what is also part of this project, that we are leveraging, or like we have partnership with telcos and ISPs, as I mentioned, hundreds of ISPs by now, 30 plus telcos by now, and that's the main distribution channel. And what they do is they offer it as an added value service. They are protecting their network, but they are protecting also their users. So it's part of their commercial offering, yeah, the protection service. And the, let's say, second option, or let's say second big segments, are the governments. In USA, in UK, in Canada, in Australia, they already have the protective DNS service on the governmental level. So any office, any municipality, any city can be easily protected with the protective DNS service, and it's another main distribution channel. And this DNS for EU, for governments, is spreading out across the Europe, and we are in touch with many governments how to actually implement it in their country. But for the governments, there are also higher demands and more feature requests how to approach the solution. So I'll jump to the next slide. And there, for the DNS for EU for governments, there are, let's say, 3 basic scenarios how they want to run the resolvers. The first one is very basic one. Yeah, we call it no deployment, and it's based on national DNS resolver. So the national CERT or a ministry, yeah, will deploy a set of national DNS resolvers, and any school or village or county office, they can just simply redirect all the traffic to this national DNS resolver and be protected automatically. Yeah, it's easy as that. Yeah, just the simpler configuration. But with some more critical service, or like critical infrastructure service, like electricity providers, or maybe hospitals or police, they want to have their own on-premise DNS resolver, because they cannot rely on something that is running outside of their network. Yeah? So for that, we need to standard deployment, and they will use on-premise DNS resolvers. A new use case or new deployment, what is emerging at the moment, is multi-tenant deployment. And that leverages something what is still ahead of us and what we call shared resolver. So it works in a way that, for example, Minister of Inferior is running set of shared resolvers, and all inferior organizations like police, firefighters, but also other offices can leverage this one shared DNS resolver. But the DNS traffic, the logs, yeah, the information from the organization are completely separated, and also the access to this data are completely separated. Yeah, so they are saving the cost on the infrastructure level, but the data are separated, and they don't have to run their own DNS resolver by themselves. And so this is something what is really emerging throughout the Europe for governments. So I'm also reaching to the end of the presentation, and this is the timeline of the project. In 2023, there was mainly preparation and kickoffs. In 2024, this is about mainly regional threat intelligence exchange setup. So how to exchange this regional data, and legislation and security requirements. And also we have first governmental deployments already. By 2025, we want to attract the end user, market the service, throughout the Europe, and scaling the deployments as needed, because we assume and almost know that there will be more and more DNS traffic coming in. And by the 2026, the funding of the project ends, but there is a requirement from the European Commission that the service needs to be sustainable, and we need to implement continuous improvements for the service. Yeah, so the funding from the European Commission cover the research, the development, but not the operational costs. So it needs to be a commercial service. So I'm almost reaching to the end. If you are interested in more details, you can follow this webpage, joindns4.eu, or you can follow the project on various social networks, Facebook, X, or LinkedIn. And by this slide, I would like to thank you for your attention. I hope that you have learned something new and something what is happening on the in the DNS field. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm open to answer them.
Thank you, Michal.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So if there are no questions which I can answer,